Activate.
In this video, we are going to take this model from here. Please take note of the URL, and we're going to turn it into a fully leaded wheel one special. Wheel one wheel, cut and shut. I'm undecided about what I want to call them. Wheel one looks good written down, but sounds rubbish said out loud. Cut and shut is a good description of what it is. Let me know what you think. Anyway, as I said, this is where I've got it from. I downloaded the GRB format and just imported it, and it's come in like this. So the first thing I'm going to do is check that it's the correct scale, it's facing the right way. Make sure you're always working in millimeters when you're doing anything to do with cars. So that's correct. So this is 2 by 2 meters. And this car is massive. So what we're going to do, first of all, let's find a middle vertex like that one there, for example. Put cursor to selected. Then let's add an empty. Let's parent the model to that empty. Then we can move that empty to X0. We can unparent that. We can delete that empty. Next, let's find the center of the wheel. Isolate the wheel. Pick one of them. Tries to quads. Select edge loop. Cursor to selected. Add empty. Let's parent the model to that empty. Now let's put it into grid by entering 0 in the Y. And let's see if we can reduce the scale. Let's move it down so it's on the ground. Now let's put cursor to world origin. Let's make sure pivot point is set to 3D cursor. Cursor to world origin. Let's add another empty. Let's parent this empty to this empty. Now let's see if we can reduce the scale of this by a whole number and see if it looks correct. Right, we're going to go with that. So this should be the back view as well. So let's change that as well. So let's select that one. Rotate Z 180. So now front, right, back and top. Okay, so we're happy there. And don't forget to save. Okay, we're just going to have a quick look at the file structure. So it looks like quite a compact file. Everything seems to be grouped or merged into just a few objects. So let's go ahead, select all, clear and keep transform. This empty here was the center of our wheel, so we're going to keep that, rename it scalar, and we're going to put that into the scene collection. Then let's get rid of this empty and this one and this one. Let's rename this one stock. So that would be our reference. Let's duplicate that empty. Put this one above this one. Let's go into viewport solid shading. Select an object, select all, edit mode, make sure nothing's hidden. Let's disable selection on the ground plane. Select an object, select all, go to edit mode, reveal hidden, select a big chunk out the middle, delete, select the back, and then let's separate selection. Select one of the wheels, tries to quads, select this edge loop. We can now go cursor to selected, origin to 3D cursor. With that object still selected, select the rest of it. And now let's go to object, set parent to object, keep transform. Now let's move that to a new collection and call it RR, which of course stands for rear. Now let's move that to Y0, and then let's compare what we have. Let's move that collection up above that one. And I'm just going to toggle 1, 2 just to see the difference in width. So there is some difference in width there. Select all, clear parent. Now let's select everything but the wheel. Now let's select the wheels, edit mode, reveal hidden, select that wheel, delete it. Now select this wheel, move it to a new collection, call it front wheel, move it above that collection, bring everything back in, select an object, select all, edit mode, toggle x-ray, select all, bisect, go straight down the middle by eye, and then reset these to 0, these to 0, and then change that one to 1, and then click on clear outer. Then let's go to the rear, select all, clear parent. Now again, select everything but the wheels. Select an object, select all, edit mode, select that wheel, delete it, select that wheel, move it to a new collection, call it rear wheel. Move this collection below the front wheel one and hide it. Bring everything back in, select an object, select all, edit mode, reveal hidden, select all, bisect, go straight down by eye, reset these to 0, these to 0, that to 1, and then check clear inner and uncheck clear outer. Now we can bring the front in, and there's a huge difference in Z between the rear and the front wheel arch. So what we're going to do, let's just see if we can move the rear down to match the front. Let's turn a wheel on. So the rear wheel is too big for the front wheel arch as well. So let's turn on the front wheel. Although it looks like the front wheel arch has got loads of space in between the wheel arch and the wheel anyway. So we can perhaps make this wheel a little bit bigger so it fits the wheel arch better, and then it will fill the back wheel arch in better as well. But for now, let's grab the rear, go G, Z. Let's match it first of all and see how that looks. So we don't want it to be dragging on the bottom like it is. If we undo that, I'm just doing a quick undo redo to see how that looks. Let's undo that quickly. Let's select the ground plane and just enlarge it, just so we get a better context of that rear. I don't think I want to scale it because it's going to skew with everything, and I don't want to rebuild it. So what I'll do is I will just move it down for now and then see if it looks bad, then we'll cross that bridge. So rear down in Z. We're going to do, before we carry on any further actually, we're going to turn everything on. We're going to select all, hold down Alt and change this to XYZ Euler. Let's fix that width discrepancy. So let's put cursor to world origin, make sure pivot point is set to 3D cursor. Top view in the bottom viewport, double click the top collection, X-ray off, and then scale X until the edge matches up, or edges match up. Let's isolate these two components. Let's check that that is symmetrical, and we can delete 1/2. Let's try to quad that, increase that to 1. Increase that to 180. So I'm just adjusting this topology influence slider to see if there's any improvements going from 1 to 2. I think I'm going to stick to 1. Let's go to the back, delete this half, so I think that should be symmetrical as well. Let's separate that wing. Don't forget those little return surfaces there. I think this can be separated as well. Tries to quads again, and then I think we're good with these settings as they are. So the first thing we're going to do here is I'm just going to separate this and see if we can recycle it later. Then let's separate this as well. Okay, select all, separate. Let's start by joining these two main components. So let's see, do we want to bring this crease out? Because we can match these two creases, so either this one comes in or this one comes out. Let's add a mirror modifier to this. Apply or transform and add a mirror modifier to the bonnet as well. First of all, let's clean up this bisected edge. So I'm going to get rid of any of these triangles. So that side's clean. Let's do this side. Let's join these two components. So let's join this one to this one so we keep the mirror modifier. Then I'm just going to start by merging the wheel arch eyebrow. And then what I'll do here is I'll just grab these two and I'll merge them at center, and then I can decide what happens to them later. So we're going to have to do a little bit of reduction here with these. So here we've got 1, 2, 3, whereas here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So let's put a face in there. Let's get rid of that one. Let's cut through here towards here, and then let's put a grid fill there. Now so these three vertices, or this row of edges, this one, and this one, give us that little fillet. So rather than having to work with all three, I'm going to slide these over with auto merge on. I'm going to put a bevel weight on there, and I'm going to put a bevel weight modifier on there. Change that to weight and adjust that to 2. And now I can work with one edge and I still get the same result as if there were 3. So I'm going to try and do a little bit of reduction along the way. And actually, I don't mind that kick there because it kind of echoes this shape here. So let's see if we can keep that. Just what happens with these surfaces here. So let's have a look, shall we? Let's see, if we were to keep this feature here, how would we make these surfaces work? We can get rid of these edge loops for now, like so. Do a little bit of reduction over here and here like this. Now let's see. So I'm just seeing what will be a natural flow for these edges as they come around this corner here. So there's obviously a big dip there. So you've got a split line going there. So if that was to be doing something more like this, and perhaps this edge here could come out to meet this, or maybe if that one just went straight on like that. So I'm just slide those over. I'm just going to cut from here towards here. So this feature is going to carry on up here until it hits this corner. So then let's look at a nice progression that goes from here and goes around and up there, and then let's include those as well. So I'm just going to isolate those. Let's hide those. So I'm just eyeballing these in for now, just so we got a nice progression of vertices. So we've got that zigzag thing going on there. Okay, let's turn it back on. Let's put a subdivision modifier on there to hide our sins. Looks like it dips down a little bit too much there. So let's see if we can just move these over a little bit, like so. So now that I've introduced a subdivision modifier, I can do a little bit more reduction in some areas, such as edit mode, select all, merge by distance, and let's have a quick look at. So that's still looking good. And I think that's starting to look acceptable now. Let's grab the rear collection, put it into that top collection, then let's delete that rear one. Now let's select all and then apply or transform. Let's disable selection of that ground plane. Let's turn on the front wheel. It's going to look completely lost in there. So what we're going to do is select that scalar empty, which actually I thought was at x0. Let's duplicate that scalar and rename the duplicate wheel rotate. Select the scalar empty and put it at x0. Put that scalar into the scene collection and disable selection on that. Now let's select that wheel rotation, cursor to selected, select front wheel, make sure pivot point is set to 3D cursor and scale that wheel up, something like that. Nice big wheel. Now we're going to select that top collection and we're just going to nudge it up and left and down a little bit maybe. Okay, that's interesting. What we're going to do then, I think we're going to have to enlarge this front part of it. So isolate those, then let's select these. Now let's move them in Y, but let's turn proportional editing on. So G, Y, turn snapping off. I'm going to do undo, redo, undo, redo. Bring everything else back in. Let's have a look at that quickly. So I can still do undo, redo, and I think I'm happy with that. Next I'm going to select that front wheel and bring it out by about a mile to make sure it doesn't look so massively underwheeled. Next let's double click that front wheel, isolate it, select an object, select all. Now let's hold down Alt and click on add modifier, generate, mirror, and with Alt still selected, click in here and type in scalar and then bring everything else back in. Let's have a look, see how that looks. Just nudge it up so it's not so sunken into the ground. And let's have a look. Okay, I've just noticed that this bit here seems to be transparent, so let's quickly fix that. Let's open up a shader editor with that still selected. Let's take this noodle out and that should fix it. Okay, good. Now let's go back to the main event, and it looks like the subdivision modifier is completely ruining this shape of this thing here. So let's just isolate that and let's get to work. So this is what's causing it. So if you imagine this corner here, the average of these three would be a little rounding here. The average of these three would be a rounding of these. However, over here, it would be the average of these three, which are miles apart, which is what's causing this mess. Let's do a little bit of reduction first. Put a face in there. Then we're going to offset the faces outwards. And we're going to do one at, let's say, 15, like so. And we're going to extrude this down. And then we're going to select this edge loop. We're going to put a bevel on that, make sure that the profile is set to 1 and change the width to 2.5. Now we can get rid of this bottom face. Let's select these corners here, which are going to be sharp. Now let's add a bevel to all of those. Again, make sure the profile is set to 1. Now let's look at this line here. So as we mentioned before, we're going to make this line continue up here and join this line here, so it kind of echoes what's going on up here. We can actually delete all of these. We're going to go straight up and across and around there. So let's just do a little bit of reduction here as well. Let's make this split line go all the way around here, over here and around here. So let's make this bottom bit the same bit as the bonnet. So let's just detach that now quickly. So let's go. Split line will go down like that and then across and there like that. So if we just rip that, now we should be able to select that piece, separate it. Now let's join this piece to this piece. And let's delete these bits. Let's join those to those, like so. Let's do a little bit of a clean up here as well. Okay, that's a good start. Let's just select all, merge by distance, bring everything else back in. Now let's build this back in. So we've got a similar issue here as we had over here. So what we can do here is just go up like that, up like that, join those. We're going to go from here to here, then from here to this one. So that should help a little bit there. Then we need to do something similar over here. So we're going to go from here to here, here to here, join those. Let's reduce this to 0.1. Let's add a bevel in here, which will help us to create this sharper corner. It will also help with the vertices there as well. Let's carry on with these support loops over here. Okay, so we can do a little bit of reduction over here as well. So around this corner you only need 1, 2, 3. And here it's going around that corner, so you only need 1 really there. So let's push those over like that. Let's trim these like that. Slide these over. A little bit of a mess over here, so let's just clean that up. So we've got a little bit of a triangle situation going on here. So spread these out a little bit like this. Let's add this little return here. Okay, so we've gone a little bit too high at this point. Let's just fix that gap there a little bit. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to grab these vertices, going to separate them. We're going to build this wall so it carries on to that point there. Snap that to that and let's just see how that edge flows. I think it looks pretty good. Okay, so let's just slide those up and slide these ones across, and then let's add a bevel weight to that corner. Okay, let's have a quick look at some of these. And if we go to before and after, you can see that it's still looking good. Let's finish off this little bonnet bit. Nudge these over so it's not so pinched. Nudge those. Let's isolate this edge loop, and we're just going to go like that, bearing in mind, and that's going to be the corner one there. So if this is the corner in top view, it should be the corner in front view as well. So this can go down a little bit to accentuate this being the corner. And then we're just going to nudge all of these. So we've got a nice gradual transition from vertex to vertex. If we line those up with each other, we should have a peak in this view lining up with the peak in the front view as well. Okay, so it looks like we've oversimplified it because we got rid of this corner here. So let's just nudge these down, nudge these across. So that's that one back in the game. Let's add a corner in there like that. That's that back in the game. Okay, that's good. And then let's just drop these down a little bit like this. And these to follow. Make sure we've got a nice consistent flow. And maybe these can come forward a touch. And these as well. Select that edge loop, extrude it down, select that edge loop, put a bevel weight on it, and then add a, we can just copy this bevel weight modifier, copy to selected, go to it, move it up to there. Let's see how that's working. Okay, there we go. Let's have a look at that in context with some wheels on. Okay, that's looking good. And then let's just finish off these wings as well, so they're not just cut off like that. So they look like they're symmetrical. So let's select one, let's select all the components, hide them, and then do the same thing on the other side. Hide those, hide. Now select all and separate. Now we can select that one, isolate it, select one half, delete it, and put a mirror modifier on it. Let's clean it up a little bit like that. Select all, measure by distance. I'm just going to get rid of some of these triangles near the area that we're going to work. And what we'll do here, we'll just add a loop cut near the end there. We're going to select that loop cut and just extrapolate it like that. Add another loop cut there. And that is how you build a Porsche 908-4 concept car. Where's that wheel gone? Concept car, fully leaded edit. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it.